What's going on, everybody? Welcome to TRAK 13, Lone Star Legion. I wanted to drop that one out there. That is my nickname for the Dallas Cowboys defense. We can take the reins on that or we can't, but I want to come out firing. Lone Star Legion showed out Sunday night, so the energy is positive. I'm the Rook, Jared May, your host, and I'm joined by my contributor, the medical guy. Excuse me.
He's been out too long. He's forgetting
the
what he's doing.
holdout. 3 weeks. The medical guy who will be presenting the analyst stats later.
There we go. Good save.
There we go. Good save. Solid save. But we got a couple things on the agenda today, if you will. We're going to start out with some NFL recap. We're going to get into our Shatter the Script agendas. Introduce our first kind of official. We did it last week, but it was a little last minute. But this is our first official, the kids picks, and that's our betting parlays, legs, just 3 different examples for the upcoming NFL week, posted every Wednesday. Then we'll slide into some diamond ranking, our 2-minute drill, deluxe tracks, tracking the boys, fantasy football analysis, the whole shebang. So we got a full slate of stuff to talk about today. So let's begin with some NFL recap. But before we get into that, the medical guy won. I appreciate you guys holding down the pod the last 2 weeks. Y'all did a fantastic job. I just want to say that. The 2-minute drill was a fantastic idea, and we're sticking with it. But how are you doing over there? How's everything going? How was the last 2 weeks?
Oh, man, it's been good. And, thank you. It's an honor to cover for you when you had to hold out and get paid and, sign some dotted lines and whatnot. But it's been a lot of fun. Glad you're off the DB list and back on the pod, ready to go. It's never a good list to be on. We've all been on it once or twice, but, you took your ivermectin shot. You did whatever you had to do, drinking a gallon of turmeric or whatever you had to do, and then now you're good to go. So,
yeah. I felt like it was wrong to take ivermectin over 9/11 weekend. I was just like, hey, they went through all this stuff, and I was like, I can't possibly cheat my way out of suffering. So I was just watching replays of I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, dude, I'm off the DB list. We'll get into somebody who's on the DB list here in a little bit. We're going to get a little saucy, if you will. But yeah, let's get into some NFL recap. I know you guys talked about the Lions and the Chiefs game last week, and you called that one. You were the only one out of the group.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of like how the analyst said. It was one of the few times he didn't mind being wrong. And so it was crazy. I did expect there to be a little more offense. Honestly, I thought there would have been I feel like there would have been if the Chiefs receivers could catch Cole. And they had a tough time. And it is kind of a testament to how good Patrick Mahomes is that he didn't have a receiver that could catch very well or, just a crazy run game or anything like that. And this game was still very close and easily could have been won, or I don't want to say easily, but definitely could have been won by the Chiefs if a play or two would have gone their way. So like that, I was right on that. Was a little off on the score, but, it's still a fun game to watch. Fun time for, the first game of football for the season.
Definitely. Yeah. And you can't always be perfect, but it was a pretty good analysis. And you were right. The receivers caught a cold, and especially Kadarius Phoney out there running routes. I dropped him fast, and the analyst was commenting on it like, wow, that was quick. I was like, damn, you got your ass. It was quick.
Well, you want to know what's funny is that, and we'll get into it later with Christian Watson, but he was projected to be hurt. And I was going to pick between Christian Watson, Drake London, and Sky Moore as my receiver put in as my second flex in one of my leagues. And technically I picked correct because I picked Sky Moore between those 3. However, the other 2 had 0 and 0, and Sky Moore gave me a whopping 0.4 points. And so that's one of those times where I wish I would have been wrong and gone with somebody else besides any of those three choices. So
Yeah, that's a tax return performance right there from Sky
yeah, that's
Moore.
brutal. Talk about a down bad list. That was
Talk about that.
that was tough.
Yeah, that was a solid game. I want to touch a little bit on just Jahmyr Gibbs. Just kind of throw a headline out there. I thought he was very underutilized, which was the talk of the town for X, if you will. But it was just every time he got the ball, he was highly explosive. And then David Montgomery was just super standard. But
Yeah,
two guys I want to throw out there. I want to throw out Brock Wright.
yeah,
My boy got some playing time, which it'll probably only decrease from here on out because Sam Laporta, I think he
yeah,
clears. Not
yeah.
to make fun of the analogy of he clears, but I think he cleared. He's looked good out there. They're kind of using him as a really not even off the line, off the end of the line, but he's had more being utilized as a wide receiver, which I thought was very interesting. So Mahomes, on the other hand, he'll be fine. He'll get Kelsey back. Those receivers will warm up. Their running game looked decent. Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon looked like they did last year. I was shocked to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire run out there.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was still on the team, to be honest. But yeah, it was definitely just crazy to see, Patrick Mahomes go through all that and still like keep the game close. And obviously, it's not a one-person team, but on offense, it really looked like it. And so the two people, they might be basic names to throw out there, but I thought Amon-Ra St. Brown just keeps proving that like he's a dude.
Oh yeah,
And then same with the Jahmyr Gibbs. Outside, if he wouldn't have stumbled on that one play towards the end zone, like he would have had a much bigger game. And it's just crazy to think like their coach Dan Campbell said like, oh, we wanted to limit his reps or whatever, but get ready for him. And I'm like, why? Like you had one running back averaging like 5 yards a carry, and then David Montgomery, averaging like a solid 2.6 or something like that.
yeah.
And what's crazy is before he left Chicago, there were actually reports out there that Khalil Herbert, the backup running back for Chicago, when Montgomery was there, actually worked better in the scheme than Montgomery did. And if you go look at a few of his games from last year, he had some pretty just outburst games while Montgomery was hurt.
He
So
looked like
those are
Brees
two.
Hall.
Yeah, those are the two I wanted to shout out because they were game changers. You could see that, when the ball was in their hands, it was big play potential, positive play potential, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. 6 yards per carry for Gibbs and 3.5 for David Montgomery. So like basically 3 yards of a difference.
Yeah.
Let's get into our Eagles Patriots game. I thought the Patriots were going to come out with a dub on this one. The Eagles ended up winning 25-20. Little wet game out there. I think the entire East Coast was just rainy all weekend long. Probably from that storm that came through. But Hurts kind of, I understand it was kind of rainy, but he kind of struggled in this game. This is one of the games that we kind of figured the Eagles would escape with. But just a couple headlines. DeAndre Swift was not utilized one bit. Kenneth Gainwell, the preseason rumors were true. Kenneth Gainwell got a lot of work, which I felt good about because I drank the Kool-Aid on that guy. Goddard didn't see a lot of touches. Zeke fumble, but what was your takeaway from this game?
Well, another point about people that are underutilized is Rashad Penny wasn't even active for the game. And that was kind of weird considering it was like, oh, the running back stable is going to be a bunch of running backs. And then they didn't even have one of their big headlines from the offseason active. But I kind of agree with you. But, Jared, it was a monsoon. You can't really judge a quarterback due to playing in a monsoon. Like, that's just unfair. But I think one big takeaway for me was how the Patriots defense played Jalen Hurts, right? If you look, there was a lot of time to throw.
Yeah.
but they weren't letting him get out of containment. And so I think that's going to be kind of a huge point going forward is they're going to say, hey, we're not going to let Jalen Hurts beat us with his legs. You're going to sit back there and you're going to throw, and you're going to make your playmakers make plays such as, Goddard and Smith and Brown and all of them. And so I think that's just going to be kind of a recipe of how defenses are going to start to play that is like, hey, more of like a bend, don't break mentality. Don't let Jalen Hurts run all over us and then make these crazy out of the pocket plays.
Yeah, and this is something that Ryan talked about in the previous pod is that I think that people were going to figure him out. A lot like people figured out Lamar Jackson and people are figuring out Justin Fields. But Jalen Hurts, Tony Romo ridiculed the hell out of him during that game because I think he missed 3 touchdown opportunities to Dallas Goedert. And he was holding on to the ball too long. And it was just a weird game. He tried to make things work with his legs. But, I was also impressed with Mac Jones. I mean, he's throwing to high school students out there. He's got Kendrick Bourne. He's got Juju Smith-Schuster, who literally has a knee that is about to explode.
Spontaneous combustion.
Spontaneous combustion. But we're going to let him go out there and play.
Yeah.
It just was a weird group to go out there. I mean, Hunter Henry was actually catching footballs, and usually he has 3 catches a year. It plays a full season. And you're like, but – I saw Jalen Hurts kind of struggle, and I'm trying to be fair here. I know we're Dallas Cowboys fans, but I saw that he struggled. That was my eye test.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he responds. I'm sure they'll tear at the Vikings on Thursday night. Kirk Cousins usually folds. But let's transition into the final recap game is the Dolphins versus Chargers. We talked a little bit about this one on text, and I want to let you talk about it because it was your point. And it was about how the Chargers offense operated in the second half with Austin Eckler pushing the ball downfield. So what was your take on that one?
Yeah, so that was kind of the biggest thing I brought up was in the last podcast was how this new Chargers offense was going to look with Kellen Moore bringing his different schemes and ideologies and philosophy about pushing the ball and pushing the offense to score. And not saying that you don't need to score. Obviously, they needed to score a little more. But how they were going to utilize Austin Eckler. And if you look at his stats, and same with Josh Kelly, I believe that was the backup, they ran all over the place, right? They ran all over the place. And in the second half, Austin Eckler had 3 carries. And that to me is just insane. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, this was a high scoring game and yada, yada, yada. Well, that's kind of our point is the Dolphins offense is very high flying, very high powered. They're not running it a ton. They're letting them get out there and just run past everybody. And that's kind of the concept we're talking about bringing to another team we talk about all the time is maybe we don't need to try to outscore them. Maybe we just need to keep the ball away from them. And so, if you look at their stat line for rushing, they I think both of them had 15 carries and over 100 yards each. Yeah. And to me, it's like, how are we not in the second half, chewing up some of the clock and then making that other offense push the envelope of trying to score quickly? And so that's where I was definitely interested and kind of saw that, that's kind of what Kellen Moore did in Dallas. A perfect example was the Jaguars game, right? Where we're really up and at them and on them. And then, we're trying to score quick. We're trying to just push the score. And then the Jaguars end up, sticking around, making a couple plays, and all of a sudden it's a 35 ball game going into OT. And so it looked very similar to that game last year, and fun to watch. But, that's just kind of the points we brought up last pod. Yeah, and you would think with an offense like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and all those guys that you wouldn't want to have them back on the field more often than not. And so when you're pushing the ball,
throwing out your ass, trying to, not establish the run, not establish the game clock, not set the tempo for the game, allowing your defense to rest and keeping Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle off the field. They decided the opposite. Let's light up the scoreboard. But what did that result in? Well, the Dolphins offense got to gnaw apart your defense for the better half of the entire second half, and Tua manipulatingly lit up the league for 500 yards passing as a result. So it's kind of like that argument where when your quarterback hangs onto the ball too long or is scrambling in the pocket, but he keeps getting sacked, your linemen don't want to fucking block for you because you're sitting there holding on to the ball when you should be getting rid of it in another 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever the pass pro may be. It's the same concept with this when it comes to Kellen Moore. Hey, I know you're trying to score and everything, but have a little IQ here. Our defense was just on the field for 15 plays. You went 3 and out because you tried to air raid the shit out of the ball when they have a dime package in or whatever. And now we're back on the field again for another 15-play drive. So screw you, Kellen Moore, even though you put up 30 points a year. So I totally agree. And I think that goes unnoticed. And he's a great coordinator. Sure, he puts points to the board, but this isn't arena football. This is the NFL. You win championships controlling the game.
Yeah.
So,
and to look at those 2 running back stats, 16 for 117 from Austin Eckler. That's 17.3 yards per carry, or 7.3 yards per carry. And then 16 for 91 from Josh Kelly. That's 5.7 yards a carry. So arguably they're in 32 carries between 2 people, they were averaging 6 yards. And to me, like, if you're doing that in the fourth quarter of the second half, like, I mean, you gotta be running the ball, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, same thing with like Herbert. You're bringing out the stats. He only had 228 passing yards. In 33 attempts. Just it didn't seem like much was working for him in the air. Obviously I didn't get to watch this full game, but just looking back on it, you're like, wow, they had a lot more success with a committee backfield than they did throwing the ball. Why are we throwing the ball? Like, control the clock, run off of play action. I guarantee you the yards of the catch would translate there. But anyway, you don't want to let Mike McDaniel cook. But let's transition into the best part, I feel like, of this. I'm most excited for this, and it's our Shatter the Script agenda. And so once we get the podcast logo out there, it's going to be front and center as the slogan, Shatter the Script. And everybody, they made a commercial about it. They talk about it all the time on Twitter. What's the script? Oh, my God, like, he's abandoning the script. You really think Aaron Rodgers getting hurt week 1 was part of the script? We don't know. But we know that there's some fools on Fox, ESPN, and all those mainstream media outlets that are talking a bunch of shit. So let's shatter the script on this Richard Sherman undisputed take, and I'll let you respond to it first after we watch it. So let's take a listen here. Un momento.
All right, I've been waiting patiently to put this fire out. It was the Giants. It was the Giants. Congratulations, you guys beat the Giants and Daniel Jones's overinflated contract. He should never have gotten it. Obviously, you see what he is and you see what he's been. Congratulations. You guys got a great defensive coordinator, the best defensive coordinator in football right now. And Dan Quinn, he knows how to manipulate the defensive line and move them into spots to have the most success. And he's getting the most out of those defensive linemen to the tune of 7 sacks. Great job. Stephon Gilmore, good friend of mine, played incredibly well on the left side. 3 pass breakups, an interception. He's going to be a great spot for that defense.
Great spot.
But offensively, 13 for 24, 54% passing in a blowout, Skip, 143 pedestrian yards. A third of those yards came on a 49-yard pass to CeeDee Lamb.
Your response?
Well, it's tough. But it just shows that that it's so media driven that the goalposts, figuratively speaking, always move when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, right? You know, you can't just have a good game on defense and then it's like, oh, the offense plays like shit. It's like the offense scored 26 points. And like we said, you know, if we're gonna not discredit quarterbacks for playing in a freaking hurricane, then like, and that's kind of the point we bring up. Like, your defense is obviously controlling the game. Why don't we try to control it on offense? Right. So our defense puts us up by 16 or 14 quick. Right. So instead of just going and trying to do something crazy or pushing the envelope, we know the defense has our back. Right. They're going to make plays. Why don't we play it safe, do the high percentage throws, do the high percentage plays, really kind of wear these people down. And then say if we don't score, but we run out 6.5, 7 minutes on the clock, well, then that offense is like, damn, they've already wasted over half the quarter. We got to score quick. Then what do? You push the envelope. You go for more low percentage plays, high risk, high reward. We turn the ball over like they turn the ball over like they did. We capitalize. And so it's just a ridiculous take. It's just exhausting and annoying at this point because it's like, you know, where do you get off kind of thing? Like, just chill out and just talk about the good things sometimes.
Yeah. And that's perfect because you covered the offensive part. The part that peeked out to me was what he led off with. An overinflated contract for a guy who never deserved it. Hold on, back up. Wait a minute. What did we hear all summer long about the Giants and Daniel Jones? That he's got his weapons now. They drafted a wide receiver. Saquon Barkley's coming back. Their offensive line is better. Second year with Brian Daboll. They have a chance. They won a road playoff game last year. Where did that go? That's what I want to know. Because all of a sudden, Daniel Jones is complete dog shit. When that's what we've been saying this entire time. We always talk about the eye test. It's like the eye test is the ultimate judgmental factor, you know, outside of stats, quarterback wins, playoff wins, rosters, coaches, whatever, is the eye test. Yeah, the eye test told me that Daniel Jones sucks. And he's booty and he's a bozo. Like, I'm sorry, I was never threatened by him. We are 10-2 against the Giants since Dak has come into the league. We knew that we were going to go into this game and probably win. We didn't think we were going to go 40 bomb their ass, but I mean, this is the second worst thing to happen in New York City since 2001. I mean, this is terrible. But on top of that, you know, you cover the offense, so I don't need to touch on that, but it just blows my mind that even in a 40-0 blowout, where the offense in 3 quarters, by the way, put up 26 points, not 4. Yeah. 3 quarters put up 26 points. Every full drive they got, they scored. They were cheated out of 8 points by 2 tight end drops. Like, what are we doing here? Like, the Giants all of a sudden are a shit team when we've been talking about them all summer? Sorry, don't buy it. I'm not stupid. Can't slide past me on that one. And Emmanuel Acho playing the good guy now on Twitter, saying, "Hey guys, that's unfair what y'all are doing with the Josh Allen Dak argument. I understand now. I get it. Whatever. You don't get to play that move, bro."
Yeah, shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth, Jared. But yeah, I'm just looking at just kind of the play-by-play right now, and just kind of a summation of the drives. I mean, people act like it's a bad thing that our defense in the first half of the first quarter, you know, spotted us, you know, 14 or 12 points, I guess, right? Right. And it's like, okay, so we go ahead, we block a field goal, get 6 points. Okay, we make them punt, we get it back, we go 9 plays, 72 yards in 4 minutes, kick a field goal. All right, we're up at least a score and a field goal. Okay, we get another interception. Okay, for a touchdown, we have 16 points. Why would we do anything crazy to jeopardize that, right? So we interception for a touchdown. They come back out, they go 3 plays and 3 yards and punt. Okay. They give it to us. We then go 11 plays and 60 yards in 4.5 minutes. That's the point of this. And kick a field goal. We are now up 19-0, and the first quarter's not done. Okay. Then the next drive, an interception again. It took 7 seconds. Then we finally pushed the envelope a little bit. 5 plays, 38 yards, we score. The game's out of reach. Game's out of reach for the first quarter's even over. Okay. And it's like the quarter ends. They miss a field goal. Okay. They punt and we come back, and then we have a long drive touchdown. And it's 33-0 before half, guys. Before the start of before a quarter of the way through the second quarter. And it's like, why would we do anything to jeopardize that, right? Why would we throw a wet football into crazy coverage? Like, it just doesn't make sense why we would just go and have all these ridiculous offensive plays, putting people in compromised positions. Like, we got a good running back. We got an O-line that looks like they're doing okay. Hand the ball off. This is where throwing a 5-yard out or a 5-yard stop route, that's fine. But, like, low risk, high reward, plays to keep the clock moving and keep the defense, who had been on the field the whole game because they kept intercepting the ball and returning for a touchdown.
Shit, they wanted to be on defense.
It's like I just don't get, like, why can one thing be good and then it's like, oh, the other side of the ball must be shit. It's like, no, it's just it's kind of what we talked about. I think it's going to be a back and forth thing all year. It's like, if one side's doing good, why would we do anything to take the momentum away? Right. And that's it's just absurd that would be the take that anybody would have after a 40-point blowout.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing went wrong in that game. And we'll touch on it more when we get to the tracking the boys, but I definitely want to touch on the fact that the whole point, the criticisms of Dak, is not playing outside of himself, which he didn't have to do at all last night. So, rainy game, no turnovers, but we'll get into that, in just a little bit.
No turnovers, no injuries. No turnovers, no injuries. You're up 20-0 in the first quarter. Hey, let's do the safe thing.
Yes. Jesus. And I want to run through some headlines, some kind of Shatter the Script headlines here. The first one is Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner. So this is for all of my Trayvon Diggs haters out there that say that Diggs is a scrub, but we're all very quiet about this. Sauce Gardner last night Monday night was targeted 4 times in the half. All 4 targets were caught for 54 yards. He allowed a 118.8 passer rating, which is the most of any DB on the field that night. That boy, welcome to the DB list. All game long, he was routed. Yeah. Routed. And not a word about Diggs. Not a word about that punch fumble, because they don't want to talk about it.
They don't want to talk about it, man. They don't want it. They don't want the facts. They don't want the facts, man.
They don't want the mother effing facts.
Yeah.
And that's with an X.
Yeah, exactly.
Second is Russell Wilson. And this is for my brother, the analyst. I want to throw this one up there, but I want to read his stat line as I get it up on the screen here. He had 27 completions with over, I think it was 34 attempts. Let me share the screen here. I moved it a little slow. There we go. Here's his passing chart. Now keep in mind, the analyst agenda is that Russ can't hit the middle of the field. So he's got 4 little dink spots right there in the middle. So better game on the middle of the field. But Russell Wilson, 17 of 19. This is in the first half, but he finished 27 of 34, like 177 yards. I think 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions with a pretty good passer rating. Okay, he had 27 completions and less than 180 yards. He did great. He was very accurate. It looked like a different Russ, but I remember some people criticizing Dak in the divisional game for being 12 of 15, 115 yards and saying, oh, well, if you watch the game, he's hitting rinky-dink passes. But then we get this thrown around saying that this is Russ cooking. Yo, he didn't even have 200 yards on 27 completions. What do we?
Yeah.
The dude was ding, ding, ding. It's right there.
Yeah, Russ cooked to an L. Like, great. I really don't care about this Colt McCoy looking stat line. This is, if you go back and watch Texas when Colt McCoy played, my boy Colt, great quarterback, great collegiate quarterback, winner. But this is what he did. Him and Jordan Shipley threw a bunch of screens and short routes, and that was their bread and butter. Okay, you've got two dudes, okay, that can play receiver, and that Ryan, talking about shattering the script, has said this from day one, that it's boundaries or bust for Russ.
That was good. That was good.
Oh. But just looking at this, and this is one of the 20, 30 passing charts that we've seen where it all looks the same. And it's just nuts that some get criticized for throwing shorter routes behind the line of scrimmage and almost being a stat padding thing. It's like, great. It's similar to me like when Blake Bortles back in the day won that Pro Bowl when they were getting trumped by 30 points, and then in the second half would go 17 for 19 for a 225 and 3 touchdowns. But it's like, oh, great. Y'all lost 41-24.
And Blake Bortles cuts the lead down to 43.
Yeah. And this is just kind of what it looks like. It just looks very remedial passes, I guess. Yeah. So it is kind of funny to see how that gets praised and some of the other stuff gets criticized. So
exactly. And then this is the Joe Burrow.
Oh, this is tough.
This is the Joe Burrow passing chart here. We know he had a bad game, but hold on. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. We had this dude become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Walks up there against the rapist Deshaun Watson and shitted the bed against. I mean, this was just atrocious. Talk about this is Daniel Jones, the two quarterbacks that got paid. Some of the quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks got paid, but Joe Burrow, highest paid, comes out 14 of 31, less than 100 yards, dog shit. T. Higgins, 8 targets, 0 receptions, nothing going their way. Man. Look at that boundary or bust right there. I mean, nothing was thrown over the middle.
I can remember, right? Isn't that receiving core like the best in the league?
Yeah, that's correct.
I was just remembering that. It's like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. I know Mixon's not a receiver, but I mean it's just weapons all around. Like, was it a monsoon there too? I can't remember.
No, I think it was actually overcast that day.
Can you just imagine? Can you imagine? And I know we talk about the Cowboys. We talk about that. We talk about all this, right? Could you imagine Dak Prescott being made the highest paid quarterback, right? Going into the season, Johnny Manziel, I can't hear you because all this money's in my face type stuff, type money. And then going out there and throwing 30 times, completing barely half. And wait, you said 84 yards? Brother, what? Dak Prescott might have come up missing if that was a thing. Jerry Jones would be like, oh, I don't know what happened to Dak. He just stopped coming to practice. And we'd be like, oh, okay. I just couldn't imagine the media, the ridicule, the just badgering that would happen. I don't think the sports media or anybody would stop talking about that. Like, I think I read something on Twitter to where they said, like, if that would have happened to Dak, every sports media outlet would have ripped up whatever they had, thrown it in the trash, and would have handed him one single sheet of paper, and it would just been that stat line. Yeah. So it's just nuts. It's just crazy.
Well, wait a minute. Another thing to shatter the script is that is Dak naysayers or people in a caliber like Dak's, they'll pull up receipts, right? They'll go to our game this year and say, wait a minute, but he was barely over 50% passing yards too. I was like, but we were playing in a monsoon, right? That's the agenda. That's the reverse. And there was no turnovers. He was actually pretty efficient. There were 4 or 5 drops. I mean, come on. And then last year, remember what he walked out there with the first week of the season?
Yeah,
we've covered that already. I mean, holy smokes, 14 of 29.
The TRAK podcast was basically his receiving core and then CeeDee Lamb. And it was like, but he has half his weapons last year ain't even barely on the roster. Brown is like the 5th receiver, and one of their receivers had cancer and came back from it, and is still on the depth chart higher than him. Only reason he's not is because he's still recovering from a different injury, and it's like, come on.
Oh, and we cut Dennis. We cut Dennis the Menace Houston. I mean, we ran out there with Dennis the Menace Houston, Noah the Ark Brown, I don't know, Simi Ass Fahoko, and CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee's nuts. Yeah, R.I.P. Simi Fahoko, 5th round pick, Cowboys legend.
Yeah, this is nuts, man. And it's going to get better for Burrow, obviously. But the other take they bring out is like, well, he didn't play in any preseason games, and he never does. And he always starts the year off slowly. It's like, okay, you threw for 83 yards, my guy. Like, against the Browns. Like, the Browns were a laughing stock last year. And it's like, give me a break. Shatter the script, man.
Yeah. Well, he's got a banged up Ravens team he's going into next week, which we'll get into later in the 2-minute drill. And then very quickly, I just want to point this one out. Ooh, this one looks. 1 second. Let me scroll down. Ding. There we go. Justin Fields, the media MVP. You want to talk about a social media quarterback? There you go. But the whole game, I was like, this dude's just hitting checkdowns to his running backs. And I looked at the passing chart because I was curious. Rinky dinks. We'll see how he performs this year.
Yeah, it's a tough stat line when DJ Moore doesn't take a pass 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage for 78 yards for a touchdown.
Exactly. Or and Chase Claypool playing in this game was atrocious. So there's a lot more to see here with Justin Fields, but I've never been a fan of his throwing capabilities, and that's a struggle. They always say, he's your fantasy god. He's going to rush for 100 yards or whatever.
And I'm not too low on him just because I think he can play. I think he could be good. And you saw last year, like, obviously he ran a lot, but it was like, it's a similar thing that the Giants did with Daniel Jones last year. They said, like, hey, we're going to build this team to run and be the quarterback and, limit the amount of times they can put him in a vulnerable situation passing wise and, just play to his capability. And I think when they do have some of these pass plays and pass concepts, it seems like they do get pretty remedial, and I think it holds him back more than it actually helps him. Like, I think, like, he could throw the ball, but he's going to have to be more of a, make some movement in the pocket, outside of the pocket, kind of the big play and sensational play aspect of it instead of, he obviously doesn't seem like a 3-step drop, throwing off his back foot, hitting a guy, anticipating, something over the middle. Like, it's going to have to be a different concept.
Exactly. Well, let's transition into the kids' picks, and then we'll kind of rapidly go through. We'll go to the kids' picks, our diamond ranking, and then we'll do our 2-minute drill, which will transition us into Dallas Cowboys, talking the boys. So let me share the screen real quick, and I'll show you guys his picks for the week. He's got 3 legs. Here we go. There we go. All right, so start off. We got Calvin Ridley at 67.5 receiving yards. That's his primary pick of the week. And so both Chris Olave and Calvin Ridley. So we got Calvin Ridley 67.5, Chris Olave 62.5, going over on both. He said that both Olave and Ridley have low props for high target value, meaning they're going to get a lot of targets, which should generate more than 60 yards. we're thinking more 6, 7, 8 receptions apiece for the both of them. So, lastly, Kirk Cousins, primetime, turnover guaranteed. We're talking 2, 3 interceptions against the Eagles secondary. It's probably going to be a little bit rainy. Who knows? But you can always count on a Kirk Cousins interception. But if you guys decide to fade this, my boy, the kid, I'm messing up my names all over the place. The kid is pretty damn fantastic when it comes to betting. I used to live with him. The dude basically paid his rent with his with his bed money. So
DGen bets. DGen bets.
He was never on the DB list because he was always degenerate enough to get by. So rock these bets. Get it in your 6 leg. Do a power play with 3. Win you a little cash for the upcoming Sunday bets. Or I'm sorry, for the rest of the season. These are the kids' picks.
Nice.
Awesome. So let's get into our Diamond rankings. This is our best college football game of the weekend. Kind of an obvious one. I'll let you do yours. I don't know if you're doing the one that I think you're going to do, but there were some good games overall this weekend. I've got a fun one, a sarcastic one. So I'll let you go first.
So I think we could put like a God tier or whatever what's the element from Marvel that they make everything out of?
Vibranium. Infinity Stones? Vibranium? Yeah.
Yeah, I think our Vibranium's tier could probably be the Texas-Alabama game.
Yeah, agreed. Good call.
But that way we can both do something different, because I know yours is pretty good. I like yours. Mine is actually, and it might bring up some PTSD for you, but it's the UNC, so the North Carolina Appalachian State game. Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah. So on my way back, we played at Georgia this weekend. I had to drive there and back. On the way back, the only way to keep up is don't tell my mom, we had the little screen posted up on the truck dash, and I was watching this game, and this was a double overtime game, 40-34 win by UNC. And it was just nuts just watching like UNC handle a couple teams this year, and do all that and then have trouble with Appalachian State. The quarterback, Drake May, if you can imagine it, in a 40-34 game, he threw 0 touchdowns. Okay. So that's nuts. However, the rushing attack was 45 carries for 319 yards, 7.1 yards a clip for 5 touchdowns.
That was okay. Hold on. That was Drake May's stat line?
No, this was just the rushing.
The team as a whole?
Yeah. Their number one running back was 26 for 234 and 3 touchdowns. So
here's a star on the back of your helmet.
Yeah, so you get a ram on the back of your helmet. But that was my top game of the weekend. It was a lot of fun watching on the way back because it was a super long game. There's a lot of action both ways, and just kind of keeping us awake on our 12-hour drive back. So that is my game of the weekend.
That's clutch. Yeah. And by the way, I am not related to Drake May. So any questions or inquiries about that, please, I decline the answer. Mine is we got the Cultivists versus the Convicts. The Texas A&M versus Miami. I called this game last week. I said we were going to blow them out of the water, and boy, did they blow us out of the water. Miami walked in there with their they broke out the chains, I guess. They were out of community service, and they were ready to go. But I thought it was funny, and I want to shout out to the kid on this one. He said it's real funny that when they had the game in Kyle Field, they had it late at 6:30, but whenever they decide to play in Miami, they got to make it a 2:30 game, so there's no mess after the game, no cry. Yeah. So that was funny. But yeah, we got routed, and I can't say enough about how much I want to get rid of Jimbo at this point. It is beyond mediocre. It's beyond average. I don't know if I just didn't see what I thought I saw last week, but when I watched the New Mexico State, I guess, highlights and plays, it appeared we were running a different kind of offense, and then like kind of a high tier pass offense. Like, hey, we trust Connor Weigman to throw the ball. I go to watch this game. We out there with Calzada again, running 3 tight end shotgun pistol sets, running weak side on 3rd and 1, getting blown up for fumbles. I mean, every single short yardage 3rd down situation was 3 tight ends, under center, single backfield, handoff to the left, handoff to the right, blown up, or a timeout by Jimbo Fisher. Hold on, we got to redo that same fucking call. But when Connor Weigman threw the ball, the pick that he threw wasn't even his fault. But he looked good. Like, so my Weigman.
Y'all got a quarterback.
Yeah, use him. Like, Weigman, he clears. I like him. Jimbo,
you don't
go eat some gumbo. Go eat some gumbo or something like that. Yeah, sideline or bust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But pitiful performance. Van Dyme had a very fantastic game for Miami. Shout out to them. Respect to them. My Alabama take still is there, though. We seem to be their kryptonite. And Jalen Milroe will probably shoot his stride, or catch his stride. But who knows? Anything can happen. Obviously, Alabama lost to Texas, and Quentin Ewers played a good game. So, that's the Vibranium ranking there. But, Diamond ranking, Texas A&M blows the game against Miami.
And then honorable mention, TJC Apaches against the Georgia Military Bulldogs, 52-28 victory. It's great to go down there, beat the crap out of somebody, because it would have sucked ass if we would have gone out there and lost and had to drop 12 hours back. So shout out to the Apaches this weekend. Good game, fun game. Some people on the team looking like a highlight reel. So
awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
Good news. And shout out to the JUCO product, walk-on product over there at TJC. Got to watch from the crib. So hopefully he can stay healthy, continue to improve. And he looks sharp, dude. Every time I see him, that dude looks bigger, stronger. So,
he's good.
Working. All right, well, let's transition into the 2-minute drill, and then we'll go straight into deluxe tracks and tracking the boys. I'll let you take over the 2-minute drill with your medical analysis, and then you can follow up. We can interchange. I know we got the analyst stats coming in too, but let's start with the medical analysis.
All right, so we're gonna go through a majority of the NFL on this injury analysis, medical analysis. So first we got J.C. Horn, hamstring for the Panthers. Okay, look out for that defense, top corner. Like I've said, soft tissue are tough to deal with, especially with DBs, wide receivers. Okay. For the Browns, Conklin, tight end, rough time. He just got signed by them, tore his ACL. He'll be out. Packers, Aaron Jones came up with a little hamstring issue. You saw it in the game where he broke out for that touchdown run, kind of as he got to the end zone. You just see him grabbing the back of that leg. So, fantasy owners, look out for that. Could be something that could plague him a little bit. Same thing. He's a running back. He could be great for those first, 3 to 8 yards. But then if he's got to break out or do something fast twitch and stuff like that, could come back to haunt him. Texans, Mr. Petre, one of the DBs there. I don't know if you read about this, but he had to be sent to the hospital. He was coughing up blood in the middle of the game or at the end of the game. Had to be sent to the hospital for a chest injury. Deemed he had a bruised lung, but it's definitely super scary. For anybody as an athletic trainer, if I saw anybody coughing up blood, we're going just straight to the hospital. So just an eye on that. Big time player, big time safety DB, especially playing for that defense over there that looked pretty good this weekend. So young guy, one of their top draft picks in the last couple years.
And that's important to note because nobody was watching that game.
Unfortunately, I was because that's all that was put on my TV. Between that and it might have been the Steelers and the 49ers. I don't know.
Great game there too.
One of the games that was on my TV was just an absolute ass whooping, and then the Texans and whoever they played. But on a serious note, he was kept overnight. Just thoughts and prayers to him, T's and P's to him. It's a scary injury. Interesting one right here as well. Travis Kelce with the Chiefs. Now, there's a report came out, and we talked about it, and, you know, toot my own horn. I kind of called it on the hyperextension and the bone-on-bone bone bruise there at the knee. There was a report that came out on Fox Sunday or whatever that he had 10 cc's of blood removed from his knee. And if that's the case, when you have bleeding inside that capsule, that's not good. Obviously, it doesn't take a medical degree or anything in the medical field to know that, but it's going to be real interesting to see if he plays this next game. Because like I told you and texted you, it's like that's your top target, that's your top receiver, your playmaker on offense outside of your quarterback. And you saw what it kind of looked like, you know, when your receivers don't hit. You know, that would be tough to rush him back for week 2 when you need him, especially for that playoff run deep in the season. So something to keep an eye on. Next one, this was a pretty scary injury. Raiders, Jacoby Myers, definitely a concussion. He got smacked over the middle. Just a little education. They have what's called a posturing or a fencing posture when they go down and they're, you know, you see, I'm not trying to make fun, but like their hands go like this or their arms kind of stiffen out or whatever. That's definitely some type of indication that there's some type of spinal cord injury. And those could be really scary seeing, you know, people do that and whatnot. So that one's pretty tough. He had a huge game this weekend, actually helped me in one of my fantasy leagues. Hopefully he gets back and continue to show out and be good for the Raiders and be that number 2 over there with Devontae Adams on the other side. Eagles, Nakobe Dean, big draft pick out of Georgia. It looks like he's going to have a foot injury, probably a Lisfranc fracture. He's already deemed out. That's a tough thing for the Eagles. And then we have the big one, Aaron Rodgers for the Jets. That's
you called that one well, off record.
Yeah, off the record, I called that one. I mean, that's just super tough to see. And seeing that his Jets season lasted 75 seconds. Couldn't really tell on the video at first. All I could see is that the calf kind of quivered. And usually what happens when that Achilles snaps is it shoots up like that. And it causes that like recoil in the calf, and that's kind of a good indication and whatnot. And the reason I didn't think necessarily ankle or medial ankle sprain is because usually when you sprain those, it's so tough. It's so much of a gruesome injury. It's hard to walk on. And so seeing that he can walk, you know, it kind of led to that indication as well. The last is the whole Baltimore Ravens team, basically. They just had a terrible day. They had J.K. Dobbins, another Achilles. Tough show for that guy because he seems like he was a great running back in college, shown like even injured and not fully back from injury last year, he could still play, comes back. This is his, you know, first year to be healthy in a while. And I mean, first game does that. So that's really tough, and I hate that for the guy. Hopefully, you know, he can rehab and get back to where he can find a roster spot somewhere out there, or, you know, not being crude or anything. He could take that $5 million injury settlement from the NFL and go on his happy way. Marcus Williams, safety, he's out. They haven't listed what the injury was, but, you know, that was a big injury. Mark Andrews has been questionable for a while now with soft tissue injuries. Ronnie Stanley, offensive tackle, sprained right knee, as they say it. He's expected to miss at least a week. Marlon Humphrey, big-time DB for them. You know, foot injury. Says he has a shot to play against Cincy. That'd just be another one. He's kind of a leader and a playmaker on the defense. It's kind of tough to rush him back, especially against Cincinnati, where he's going to have to cover those guys. And then Tyler Lindbaum, he's a center. Okay, suffered a sprained left ankle. Okay, they're expecting him to be out for at least a week or two.
First round center, I think, too. I think he was first or second round.
Yeah, he's a good draft. I think coming out of Iowa, maybe.
Yeah, it was one of the rustic towns, flyover states.
Yeah, and so that was tough, but they had a slew of injuries and to a lot of big name guys. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up this weekend against Cincinnati. And then the last one on the injury report, our own Hunter Poole. He is replaced the Rook on the DB list. He's now out. He hasn't said why. But it's just interesting, the Rook and the kid, they're best friends. One gets sick, and then immediately the other one gets sick. Just a little suspect, but we're not going to go into too many details. I'll let them.
That's just acceptable.
Hey, we're not getting into what y'all do behind closed doors. I'm just saying it's very interesting that one comes off of it and then one goes on. It's like, that's crazy. But hopefully Hunter gets back on it, gets right, and he can be on the pod next week and figure out, what we're going to talk about, how he's going to slander somebody that we care about. So you get
on the DB list.
But enjoy your time on the DB list, the down bad list, because you get to arguing too much with us, and that's what you'll end up being most of the time. So
hey, we do hope you get better, though. There's a big sickness wave going around right now, and I got people in Dallas that are sick, people in Montgomery that are sick. I had the flu, and I've never gotten that in my life. So something's going on.
Yeah,
something's going on.
Yeah, but that wraps up the medical guys analysis and 2-minute drill. Next, we're gonna have Jared, the Rook, and myself kind of go over the analyst stuff. He sent us a huge AMA, MLA format text of different stats. We're going to get into this, kind of make it light, kind of make it funny, and then I think one of us is going to add a little stat just for a little spice on top at the end. So, Jared, I'll let you start off, and then if you want me to come in,
I'll start off with the first portion, and then if you want to take over the rookie watch portion,
there we go.
That'll work perfectly. So, he wanted to lead off with talking about Burrow's bad performance, which we covered in Wholesome earlier when we were shattering the script. He's still 1-5 against the Cleveland Browns. So that's his big, hey, I just got the highest paid contract in the NFL, go out and shit the bed sort of thing. Allen's turnover troubles. He had 4 turnovers, and it's not going to cut it. And it's a bad turnover bug, and we mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier again. Talking about since 2021. The amount of, I think he had 19 games, 20 interceptions and stuff like that. So last night he had 4 turnovers against. It was a tough Jets team, but I mean, dude, Aaron Rodgers goes down. Zach Wilson's not playing incredible. You have opportunities to win the game, and you just keep blowing it. Like you just one after the other. So. And that's an agenda that's not talked about a lot until Emmanuel Acha stood up and said something. Tua turned the ball over, and Tyreek Hill combined. I mean, it was 466 yards from Tua and 215 aerial yards for Tyreek Hill. And Tua, I mean, like we talked about earlier, once again with the Chargers game, and they were on the field basically the entire game. So they had an opportunity to blow up the scoreboard, but that doesn't take away from the performance they both had. That was incredible. Yeah. Over 40 points for Tyreek Hill. I think over 35, I think, for Tua. So a nasty combo to watch all year. Going to be something to watch for those two. We'll be meeting them after week 10 at some point. So then the Dallas defense. And this is kind of a little implementation before we get into tracking the boys, but a 67% pressure rate with 7 sacks, a blocked kick, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, 2 touchdowns, and 0 points allowed. A big-ass goose egg allowed. And that could be the best, in Ryan's opinion, the best defensive performance of all time. Also, his agenda, Marquise Bell, 8 tackles. I think one was for loss. So we called that. Marquise Bell was rolled down to that rover kind of hybrid linebacker slot, number 14, and did a fantastic job. He had that huge tackle for loss on Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. In the Bay, we got the bruiser, Brandon Ayuk, who everybody thinks is better than CeeDee Lamb, but he's definitely not. But he had a great game. 8 receptions, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. major game in the clear-cut wide receiver one for the 49ers, which corresponds with my agenda, is that Debo, when you're talking about the wide receiver spot, let me be so quick on this so I don't get lost. We're talking about the wide receiver spot. He's a good athlete, but he's not a great wide receiver. Great athlete, decent wide receiver. That's why I use number one over there.
Whoa!
Another note on the Niners for Ryan is that defense is still legit. No fucking shit. But
yeah, good call, Ryan.
Good call, Ryan. Jordan Love, my agenda again, but I'm glad he's bringing it up. Jordan Love looked good. He's an Aaron Rodgers project, 245 yards passing, not doing too much, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, very solid performance. Did the Packers find another generational quarterback? And, of course, I guess he's not really a rookie. But anyway, Trevor Lawrence, very solid performance once again. Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence are going to be a hitter.
Calvin Ridley looks like he just looks better than everybody. Like,
it does. Yeah, it's scary. God. It's scary. 103.8 quarterback rating for T-Law. Offense will be scary when it's in full swing. And like you said, I mean, Calvin Ridley looked like Jerry Jeudy in college, just juking the shit out of everybody. Yeah. And I'll let you cover the rookie watch.
All right. So we're going over the rookie watch. First thing was Anthony Richardson. Solid game. Needs to learn how to protect the body. Okay. You know, big guy, fast guy. Obviously, one of his strengths is, moving around and running and stuff. You're just going to have to protect your body. You're going to have to learn how to not take, such hard hits, because they'll add up. And, when the running back or when the quarterback is running, you see these defensive backs, these tight ends and all them licking their chops, ready to put a hit on somebody. You saw the Dallas Cowboys do it on like the first drive when Daniel Jones ran, right? First thing, it might have been a late hit. As long as you ain't targeting, you're not getting thrown out. So letting them know, like, hey, we're here. And so big thing, he just needs to learn how to protect body, make it through the year, because the Colts are going to be dependent on him because they ain't got nobody else. And so next, Bijan Robinson, Bijan Robinson is he looks everything that he was predicted to be. Dude looks like just a different freak level athlete. Super explosive. The one TD catch he had, I think I read a stat today that when he caught it, he had only a 10% chance to score. And he, went full Madden mode and made a person miss and somehow made 2 people run into each other. And it's just crazy because he looks like everything he has been advertised to be. Also on that, Algier, who's not a rookie, but kind of carried the load last year, had a great game as well. So it's looking like they're going to be a running back by committee type thing, but it looks like they have 2 stud running backs. Okay. Next, we got Bryce Young. First game out of the gate, just rookie mistakes. Needs to learn to look off safeties. Just looked like a rookie. Looked like a rookie quarterback thrown in a bad team. Okay. The next one is CJ Stroud. I actually watched a lot of this game, and so I can comment a little bit on it. He had an okay performance. Kind of looked like a rookie a little bit. Same kind of position Young is, kind of an offense still looking for that identity. Don't really have a big-time receiver. I know John Mechie is still out and supposed to be there soon, but it's like when you really don't have people to throw it to. I mean, Nico Collins is his number 1 receiver, and nobody would know who that is unless they just listen to me say his name. And so watching that game, that defense is ferocious. Expecting so with D'Amico Ryan as the coach, the offense just looked very reserved, very don't make a mistake, don't do anything crazy. And so I think throughout the season or in the next 2 seasons, I think they'll be very good. They get a weapon. They also had an O-lineman out. Was it
So it wasn't Tunzel, was it? Kenyon Green.
Green, yeah. One of them had a hand injury. He was out, so that's a big time thing as well. But definitely something to watch in the next couple of years. I didn't think it looked as good as it could have been, but definitely wasn't as bad as what it seemed. Last, Jordan Addison, as Ryan said, perfect complement to relieving pressure off of Jetta. especially now that Thielen's gone. And, Jalen Rager obviously got cut from like his fourth team. He mentions in here statement, big time statement right here. If he's available in your fantasy, get him or trade for him. So that's his big statement right there for the rookie watch. And then the one stat that I wanted to sprinkle on that you kind of mentioned a little bit, I can bring it up here. Just give me like a few seconds.
Copy.
Okay. It was about Josh Allen, and Nick Wright actually posted it. And sometimes I don't really agree with what he said, but this one, he's kind of been on the board because big Chiefs fan, Patrick Mahomes is in his own tier, and everybody knows that, but it's just crazy that people are like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, when it's Patrick Mahomes down to the floor. Okay. Since week 1 of 2022, Josh Allen has played in 19 games. He has 20 interceptions and 17 fumbles in those 19 games.
Oh, we thought it was 7 earlier. I thought you said 7 earlier.
No, 17. So I know you went to A&M. I don't know if you got a degree in math, but I'm going to just add that up for you. That's 37 total turnovers.
Thank you.
In 19 games. Yeah, I can't remember what your degree within, but you're probably better at math than me.
What we're doing right now. That's my degree.
Oh, sorry. But 37 turnovers. Okay, that's not good. That you can find a bunch of words, 4-letter words to describe it, a bunch of adjectives and whatever you want to say. That's not good, and it's something when we talk about shattering the script that gets hidden in his agenda. It's like, oh, well, he's a playmaker. Well, that's why he's there, is because he's got all these different intangibles. Yeah, he also turns the ball over.
Yeah.
And so that's just one stat that I wanted to throw out there, is that, yesterday was a prime example is, he had 3 picks, 2 fumble losses. People forget he fumbled 3 times last night. So he had 5 turnovers, 6 possibilities of a turnover in a game that was a 1-score game. So
terrible.
That wraps up the 10-minute 2-minute drill that we did. Hopefully you like the injury analysis, the stat analysis from the med guy and the analyst.
Well, truth be told, I had to keep myself from going to the Sleeper app and, undoing my bid for a certain player because of his injury that you did. So I'll be doing that after the pod. But yeah, very solid. That was a good 3-hour, 2-minute drill. But I liked Ryan's enthusiasm there. I like he was very eager. He wanted to be on this episode. He's busy. Luckily he's not sick, but it's good that it's always nice to have enthusiasm, and so it's shout out to Ryan for all those stats, and we'll get to some Hunter's take. Now, actually, we'll get into tracking the boys. I'm going to skip my deluxe tracks. We've already basically covered all 3 of those. It's basically just Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett, and Justin Fields agendas. Keeping track of those. We kind of know the spiel on that. So tracking the boys, Dallas Cowboys. Now, we've kind of already covered, for the most part, with the Shatter the Script agenda and things of that nature, the general consensus of the Dallas Cowboys. But I wanted to give a reiteration on the defense and name some players, and then I'll let Jacob kind of respond here. But the defense, again, 7 sacks, 0 points allowed, a blocked field goal for a touchdown, 2 defensive touchdowns total, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble. One of the interceptions was from Gilmore. One of the interceptions was caused by Diggs. The pass rush was literally embarrassing for the Giants, quite literally. When you double-teamed Parsons, you freed 3 other guys and 5 sacks were generated. When you single-teamed Parsons got in there and made the sack. The secondary was all over the place, playing downhill. Jaron Kearse, John Wade Thomas was locking down Darren Waller. Marquise Bell rolled down to the linebacker slot, making plays behind the line of scrimmage. This defense, could it be have the potential to be the most historical, best Cowboys defense that we've seen in our lifetime?
Absolutely. In our lifetime, absolutely, man. I mean, we talk about last year's defense being good, but I mean, there was never never a game that I can think of in the NFL since I've been on this earth and can remember football, where it was just, and we talked about it off the pod, of like what looked like a varsity versus a JV team. Yeah. And I mean, I know I'm not questioning character or people or how they are, but it literally looked like the Dallas defense was a pro team, and then the Giants were not. Like it was just bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was just bad, and
the Lone Star Legion.
Yeah, Lone Star Legion. You just kind of felt bad. I felt bad towards the end of the game. Why was Daniel Jones in there? Because he was just getting ripped. And so it was just a bludgeoning, an ass kicking, whatever you want to call it. The defense looked just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, not too much to say there about the defense outside of what was already known. Just absolutely dominating performance from the Lone Star Legion. And I want to touch on this offensive thing because people have some concerns, and I'll let you follow up as well, and then we'll get to Hunter's take about the offense that people kind of have concerns about. Like, it doesn't feel like they were really moving that well, and I get that there was a little bit of rain, but we expected more. Dak didn't do a whole lot. Well, let's review. You talked about it a little bit earlier. Was that Dallas had already generated like 14 points from the defense alone, or 13 because Brandon Aubrey, 13 points on the board before the first quarter had ended, and we get the ball. We're like, we already have a 13-point lead. Go down the field, get a field goal, another touchdown. We're up 19-0. Boom, we're up 26-0 at half. Boom, we're up 33-0 early in the third quarter. Or was it the half? Either one. But
we were up 40-0 at. We were up 33-0, 40-0 at 33-0 by half, I think.
Yeah.
Something crazy. 26 at half, sorry.
We were curious to whether or not the offense was even going to touch the field in the first half. So with that being said, when we got the ball, what we did is Ryan's agenda, what he talked about in the last pod. We established the pass through the run, and we ran first and passed second. We eliminated mistakes. We didn't turn the ball over in shady weather. We controlled the time of possession, even though they probably won time of possession. We weren't on the field very much, and we probably got pretty close to matching. And that speaks volumes for this new mature Texas Coast offense and scheme with Schottenheimer and McCarthy, which is what we touched on last week, is we're going out there not trying to light up the scoreboard, throwing our defense back out there. They're dominating, but we still want to minimize the offensive opportunities on the field. So it was very nice to see that the Cowboys just kind of stay within themselves and not play with outside, not have Dak Prescott play outside of himself. So that was great to see there. And that kind of sums up the offense, in my opinion. And if you have any additional thoughts on the offense, I'd love to hear it.
No, I kind of agree with you. Well, not kind of. I fully agree with you. I think, at that point when it's, 26-0 at half, or even 13 or 16-0, and it's obvious that like, hey, the defense is getting after this, right?
Right.
Let's not mess up, right? We talked about it in the different philosophies and play calling between Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy. It seems like we're going to do what we need to do to win in a more methodical and efficient way, right? So why would we want to get down there and score real fast and just give the ball back to them after the defense has just been on the field? So I totally agree with you. I agree with Ryan that, establishing the run and helping out the pass with the run and stuff like that. I just think it was more about our offense just playing sound rather than being extravagant. So that's kind of my big take on the offense. And we'll get into some more of these takes going in because I know we have some other things listed right here. And we'll get to the kids' takes.
Yes. Yeah, so the kid, I wanted to give him an opportunity to have his voice heard. Obviously, he's on the DB list, like we mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, he'll be back next week. But he had some things to say about the Dallas game. So he said Dallas looked faster than ever on the defensive side of the ball. New players in Damon Clark, John Wayne Thomas, and Marquise Bell added an electric feel to the defense when it already had the tenacity. Diggs played the most physical he has after getting a contract, and he believes there might be a coincidence behind that. That once he got paid, now it's time to play. Pay for play. Micah Parsons is the best player in football, and he expects Dallas to be playing ahead most games with this defense. Kind of going off of the defense being the focal point of the team. Offense. Not really much to say other than Tyron Smith and the Hogs played a hell of a game. More to comment on other guys moving forward. Tony Pollard looked good coming back from injury. Hopefully it will continue. And then he had one final touch on Daniel Jones. He said, DJ will get criticism, but playing in a monsoon versus a defense like that is a recipe of disaster. QBs, from my point of view in the game, don't get a hard critique given all the bad weather. So, kind of a redundant thing on the take on defense because there's not many alternate opinions on the defense, and so I like his shout out for Tyron Smith there. Thought that was excellent, and I like his little nickname for the O line, the Hogs. A little shout out to the Arkansas Piggies. So TP looked good. Agree with that. Anything to comment on the Cowboys or the DJ comment on that one?
No, not really. I kind of agree with Hunter. A lot of things he said were good. I like you said, he threw out the O-line and whatnot. It's just funny how the Daniel Jones criticism for the monsoon, but nobody else got criticism or got the lack of criticism. And it's just, and it's not Hunter that's saying this, obviously, but like everybody said, and we talked about it earlier about Daniel Jones being like this, I don't want to say he's a bad quarterback, but he's not great. Okay. And the Cowboys came out here and it made him look like he was bad. Like he looked bad, and you could blame it on weather. The offensive line looked bad. Their receivers weren't great. I mean, Darren Waller was basically a non-factor. And so, I mean, it's just props more to the defense because what the media was saying and what multiple faces before the game said, we're going to win this game. And for certain reasons, being Daniel Jones, not Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones and Darren Waller specifically. And they were absolutely non-factors as well as Saquon Barkley. So I agree. I agree with Hunter. He made a lot of great points. I really like the thing he brought up about Diggs playing now that he got paid, because
I agree.
You saw in previous years, like it looked like he was kind of in a tackle, and then that one play he made on Saquon was like, whoa! Like when they said, Trayvon Diggs, punching that ball out and making that tackle for that interception, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I got another wrong number. I was like,
Diggs?
Yeah.
Barkley? What?
Yeah, I was like,
it's Nick.
Shot. Yeah. So I really like that point he brought up. I think that's a really good point.
That's the first time Trayvon Diggs' jersey has been a different color than the original.
Yeah.
So shout out to Trayvon Diggs. Hell yeah, Hunter. Good takes there. It's an alternative view as well. I'm glad he shouted out Diggs. We haven't talked much about him on this pod yet. But let's get we haven't really, I don't know if we've ever done an official Dak on Track segment, but just kind of keep track of what Dak did in the previous game and what we'll be expecting to do against the next game. So we'll just do what we saw. We'll do the Mamas Don't Let You Cowboys, and then we'll predict the Jets. So obviously his stat line, 13 of 24, 143 yards, no turnovers, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Very good game management and ball security. We were pretty high on Jake Ferguson. We had a lot of praise about him. And unfortunately, the tight end group is what kind of struggled the most, what it looked like. What were your thoughts on just Dak making some pretty good throws in the red zone that were discredited by drops or, Tony Pollard scoring? I mean, does it really matter to you? We kind of already stated this, that Dak didn't have a touchdown pass, or a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's kind of like when North Carolina game earlier about how Drake May didn't have any passing touchdowns, but they won the game. Mm-hmm. And the rushing attack on offense was phenomenal. And so it really didn't matter to me if he had any. Yes, it would have been nice. Yes, it did suck to see how the position group that we were so high on, being the tight ends, didn't perform as well as they should have. I will say, if we're going to give, Daniel Jones a monsoon take, I think it's fair to give Jake Ferguson, who's never been a tight end number one, Hendershot, who's never been a tight end number two, kind of go out there and, have some jitters, have some elements of weather against them. And at the same time, the very beginning of the game for the offense was super clunky, because you get riled up, you get warmed up, you're ready to go. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're not on the field for the next 30 minutes, basically. Yeah. And so I just think that could play a part into it. But I think, and I'm kind of being redundant here as well, I think it just goes back to the different train of thought and scheme and play calling, to where it's like, hey, we've got all this momentum going. Why do anything to destroy it? Yeah. Let's keep it safe. Let's game manage. Let's do what we can do to keep ourselves in the best advantage point and not give them any momentum. So I'm okay with Dak throwing out 53% in a monsoon and 0 touchdowns, and we don't turn the ball over and win the game 40-0.
Yeah, yeah, and I liked his pregame press conference as well. He looked ready to kill somebody. But my take, he looked very poised in the pocket. There wasn't any throws where we were like, "Oh, that was close." Maybe besides that one where I think Kayvon Thibodeau dropped back in coverage, but his back was turned on a slant route. Ball ended up being completed. But yeah, nothing that worried me about Dak, honestly, in this game, and we escaped. If we had a deficit there and we had to climb back, I wouldn't be comfortable with it with a monsoon. It's just not fun to watch. So it was good. Everything worked out great. Dak was poised, no turnovers, nothing crazy, stayed within himself, ran the ball well, managed the clock. Can't ask for much more. Let's get into our Mamas Don't Let You Cowboys headlines. These are your kind of play-along words with the infamous country song and Cody Johnson. Yeah. This is things that we don't want the Cowboys to allow, or other teams shouldn't allow the Cowboys to do to them. I'll let you go first.
Mamas, don't let your Cowboys get hit by the injury bug. Oh, yeah. I'm going to do that one. I think it's fitting for what I do. It would just suck to see something like that happen, especially how high we are on the team right now. So, and after having a statement like that, it would just suck to see us get hit with the injury bug like that. So that is mine. Mamas, don't let your Cowboys get hit with the injury bug.
Yes, sir. Yeah, mine is Mamas, don't let your Cowboys sack your quarterback in under 2 seconds, which is automatic dub. And I'm talking to you, Zach Wilson. So one of the things I wanted to bring up earlier is that the Jets have a very low-ranked offensive line, a lot of injury issues. They've got Aaron Rodgers hurt, arguably. So Micah Parsons, he's scratching that dirt right now, and he's coming. Pause.
There we go. I knew it.
All right, yeah. The Mamas Don't Let Your Cowboys gets you a quarterback in under 2 seconds. And then let's wrap it up with some fantasy football talk and then our records of the week. I just want to go over kind of like a little hierarchy here. What I have for our top 3 TRAK Dynasty standings, our TRAK Dynasty hierarchy is I actually have your team, the medical guy. I have you at number 1. I think you have a solid wide receiver lineup. I think Dak will improve as the season goes on. Fantasy score-wise, he's a guy that probably gets you 16 to 20 points consistently. Got great balance at running back. Followed by the kid, Hunter's team at number 2. I thought he had great young wide receivers and a cool little project at tight end at Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo. And then following that, number 3 is the analyst. He's got Cooper Kupp on the IR. When he returns, I can see some big things for him. He's got that incredible Jaguars stack of T-Law and Calvin Ridley. And Austin Eckler, who he was afraid of. He got him in the 2nd round. He was afraid that he was wrong, but he trusted his gut. And I told him it was like, it's a good pick. I just didn't prefer him. I had a chance to get him. But honestly, it's weird because I think 2 of these teams are 0-1, but I don't think that 2 or 3 of these teams are 0-1, but I don't think that reflects the teams at all. It was a very odd week for injuries. So yeah,
I was a little upset with my 0-1. Lost by I think 4 points this week, and it's kind of a bittersweet loss because it was due to Dallas's defense scoring 44 points. And then obviously Dak not having to do much. So don't expect that to be I hope it's a common thing that the defense scores 44 points on fantasy and Dak doesn't have to do too much. But fantasy-wise, definitely need a little more out of Dak Prescott.
Yeah, a little more than 6 points would be great.
Yeah.
A little more than 0 for me would be great because I had Aaron Rodgers, so in a 12-man. But in this league, I'm still curious to see what my team can do. I had Garrett Wilson, Mark Andrews. It's just a very strange atmosphere to be in because I just don't know what to expect from my team. It's not the team I imagine. Kamara suspended. Obviously, I took the sacrifice there. I didn't want to say this publicly, but I think that the Seattle Seahawks might be shitty.
That was a terrible loss for them.
Yeah, that was. Oh. I said that the Rams impressed me, and then shout out to a guy named Grant. He said, I think it actually spoke more volumes of how shitty Seattle was. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, that's actually probably the right. But I mean, Stafford lit them up with Tutu Atwell and Nutella, whatever his name is.
Yeah. And Cam Akers rushed, what was it, like 22 times for 29 yards or something crazy that.
Kyron Williams had 2 tutties.
Yeah, but if we're keeping track of bad beats this week in fantasy, and one of my other leagues that I'm in, sorry, I'm in another league, I know.
Oh, yeah. I mentioned mine too.
But I had Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and the kicker for the Bills, right? And going into overtime, I am down half of a point. And I'm like, oh, hell, okay. They get the coin flip and get the ball. I'm like, this is money. I just need one catch, something, anything to give me half a point. Josh Allen proceeds to throw the ball 1,000 miles an hour 2 times, misses his receivers, and then run a little whatever to James Cook. And then they punt the ball, and SFA alum, Maxim Jacks, Gibson returns it for a TD. And I was not happy. So I was not happy because I needed to win 2 separate leagues. If you put the score together, I needed 4.5 points to win, and I lost both of them. So
yeah,
it's a bad beat.
Bad beat. It could cost the number 1 slot at the end of the year where you're like, man, if that didn't happen, I would have got it. Like last year, if Breece Hall didn't tear his ACL, I would have had the number 1 seed with a team that probably didn't really deserve it. But anyway. So yeah, some interesting stuff. The free agency FAAB is beginning this week. So I'm sure some people have already put some bids out there. They're probably wondering what price you're going to put on some guys. And probably as the week goes along and once we get to our press conference, we're probably going to cover some high sells, buying or selling certain players, what players to look out for in the waiver wire after the month has ended. So we'll see how people bid this week. This is our first year doing FAAB. If you're not doing that format, I think you need to, if you're our age, you've kind of grown past the rolling waivers. And this is a very fair way to beat the waivers. We're like, man, why am I number 10? I have the most needs, and that's why I'm number 10. I want fairness or equity. And it's like, okay, well, you bet your money now. So like you have a budget. You could bet 0. You could bet 30. You could bet 150. It don't matter. So it'd be interesting because Tua's on the waivers this week. So I think you dropped him actually.
Yeah, because my tight end George Kittle was projected to be hurt, so I needed somebody, and I had Dak, and I was like, well, Tua could run into a door and be out for 4 weeks, so so I needed somebody else, and he was the first one. So and then unfortunately Tua probably would have won me this week, but we won't get into that.
So he might be a high bidded target this week. Tyler Allgeier's in the waivers as well, another guy too. So be interesting to see. I'm excited to see the results on Wednesday. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I still got to look at it. And like I said earlier, I'm probably going to go back and remove a bid. Well, let's finish off with our track records of the week. I'll go first on this one, and then I'll let you close this out. So I went with a Zach Bryan song. It's from his new album. This is in honor of Zach Bryan's arrest. He came out with the video. He's fine. He wasn't prejudiced against, so he's going to be okay. But this is Zach Bryan featuring Casey Musgraves. It's "Remember Everything." It's a pretty cool line in this song, even though it's kind of a lonesome song. Probably the best on his album, I'd argue. Casey Musgraves hits the notes every time. She's got the God harmony. But it says, "Do I remind you of your daddy in my '88 form, Labrador hanging out the passenger door?" I was like, yeah, that's like the American dream right there for Daddy-O, driving
you just wanted to say daddy. That's all you
wanted. Oh yeah, Zaddy. Yeah.
There we go. It is a good song and a pretty good album. So
pretty good album.
That's awesome. So I'm going to go kind of like I did the other day on the other pod. I'm going to go with a different type of record. And it's going to be a statistic. It's actually going to be the most NFL passing yards in a game. And the reason I'm going to tell you this is you're going to be like, you're going to think like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, whatever. It is Norm Van Brocklin threw for an NFL record of 554 yards in a game in 1951.
Oh,
so
valid.
That's valid, and so it's interesting to see that that's the one record that has withstood the tale of time in a passing league, and all the quarterbacks that have rolled through there. I mean, you could list like what are we going with? Like Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, all of them, like all these guys that just own these passing records. And then I don't even know who Norm Van Brocklin is. I'm not going to act like, I knew what he did in 19. No, I have no clue. But the fact that he threw for 554 games and then probably later that night went and had to deliver newspapers back in the day, and he owns the NFL passing yards record is still just it's just dumbfounding to me that this 70, 80 years ago, this is the record that has evaded some of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen in the NFL.
Yeah, Norm Van Brocklin probably invaded Normandy back in the
day. Kind of like, what was it? Ted Williams, who had 3 seasons of being a Triple Crown winner. went to the world war, came back, and still kicked the shit out of everybody. It's like, okay.
That's the greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah.
Talk about a dog.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, yeah. I love the good records of the week there. Solid. Always good to have a musical and alternative take on records there. So, like usual, follow the socials. We're on Instagram at TRAK.pod. We're at Twitter at the TRAK pod. That's something we want to shout out now that we got some clowns coming after our mentions and stuff saying our pod sucks. But boy, you just vulture off everybody else's content. Don't need to hear nothing.
Yeah.
Fools. TikTok at TRAK.pod. Most of our attention is going to be on Instagram. So go anywhere you like. All the content is distributed pretty much equally, but Instagram has been the easiest way for me to reach our followers, and TikTok hits an algorithm that just is strange to me. So follow the socials. Could always use some more. Any inquiries, contact our Instagram account. And, of course, follow all of the personal accounts on Twitter. You'll be seeing us a little bit more active as well. And as usual, the medical guy, thank you for hopping in, filling in. Pause. Did a really good job the last 3 weeks. Always nice to have some solid contributors on the pod. So this was another great episode. The Rook and the Kid will be back next week. Last thing, the TRAK press conference, which will be a live event coordinated with the TRAK Dynasty Fantasy Football League with every member involved, will be at the end of September. And we'll be coordinating dates on that, so that'll be fun.
That's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, it's going to be – I might have to cut some of the episode if people don't behave. So
yeah, hopefully nobody in this group wants a job in politics in the next 30 years, because it's not going to happen.
It ain't
going to happen.
All right. Well, solid pod. This is the Rook and the Kid podcast, Shatter the Script. I'm the Rook. That is the medical guy. And thank you guys for coming out. We'll be seeing y'all next Wednesday.
Later, guys.